and welcome to Amethyst Star Crafting. My name is Jane Allmark and I'm a UK independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And today we're looking at Beautiful Moments, which is an absolutely lovely line drawing stamp set. Beautiful sayings, collect beautiful moments, thinking of you, you're somebody's blessing, and some lovely images. So I thought that we would work with this one because, as I say, I really enjoy doing things with line drawings. And we are going to be using, now, we have a clearance rack, and in the clearance rack you can get all sorts of things for up to 60-70% off. So it's always worth having a look. I will put a link down below because there are some really good things in there at the moment. And I have got these, which are delightfully detailed note cards and envelopes. Now, you get 20 in a pack, and at the moment they are £3.50. So you get, let me just get some of these ones out so you can see. They are Blackberry Bliss and Mint Macaron. So lovely purples and bluey greens. And they have a sort of a watercolour wash on there, which will go perfectly with these watercolour cards. And you get 5 of each of 2 different designs. So that one's got sort of, you know, a splodge that way. That's just got a splodge there. And then on the Mint Macaron, you've got, again, a rough watercolour wash. And that one is more sort of variegated. They are very vanilla on the outside, but the inside is Whisper White. So again, they will tone up with your white or your very vanillas. And I'm going to be using the whites on them. And you get matching envelopes as well. So it's something that is worth getting. I bought a couple of packs because I thought, absolutely brilliant. Put them in little boxes, put them in things like that. And for £3.50 for 20 plus your envelopes, that's a real bargain. So as I say, I will have a link down below to it so that you can get them while they last. It's always while stocks last because clearance rack goes very quickly. So I shall show you what I've done with the first 2. And then we're going to do some with the Mint Macaron. So what I've done with this is I have teamed it in with the Blackberry Bliss, and I took then some Melon Mambo and just toned it with the Blackberry Bliss to just give 2 different colour tones. Did them with our aqua painter, and that's what we're going to do with the other. So 2 very pretty ones. Took the sentiment, thinking of you, collect beautiful moments, teamed it up with the Blackberry Bliss with a little just 1/8 of an inch border around there, and I think that they make absolutely beautiful cards. So and I did use a little bit of retard ribbon on there and some of the sequins from the Poppies set, just some clear ones to add a little bit of twinkle. So we're going to do another 2, but we're going to do them from scratch, and we're going to do them with the 2 different Mint Macaron ones. So the first thing we need to do is we need to cut coordinating mats and layers to just go on there, and the easiest thing to do is to use the stitched rectangle shapes. So I have taken one and this little piece to go in here. Now let me tell you which one of the stitched rectangles it is, because I know quite a lot of you like to sort of make them from going forward. So stitched rectangles, it is from the inside, count 1, 2, it's the 3rd and the 4th. So the 3rd and the 4th from the center, and that's the 3rd. Let me do it. Is it? Says me, am I giving you the wrong thing? I probably am. So it is 1, 2, 3. It's the 4th is the white, and the 5th is the Mint Macaron. So from the centre, the 4th and the 5th. Now, if you don't want as large a border, use the 5th and the 6th, because the 6th one will give you a slightly bigger border. So, for example, if you didn't like the Blackberry Bliss that much and just wanted a little border, just make your rectangle one size bigger. Okay, so let's just pop those back in there. and I've done these with, you know, just bits of scraps and things that I've got over. It's ideal to do that. If you haven't got the dies, just cut them. Just cut yourself a mat to match. So let's take these two pieces because we are going to do the inside pieces first. So these two little panels, I'm putting this on a scrap because we're probably going to go outside it, and I'm going to take the lovely lady again because I really like that one. I think that one's such a pretty one. So let me get a block for that. We need to put it on a fairly large block, so we can just pop that on there like that. I'm going to ink it up in a good black ink. And then we're just going to put this on here. And I'm trying to sort of put it just in the centre. So there's room above and below, because if we're putting the sentiment a little bit down at the bottom, it gives us enough room. But what a lovely image that is. Absolutely beautiful. So let me take my Simply Chamois and give that a bit of a clean off. Simply Chamois are ever so good. I've got one which is a whole one, and my old one I've just cut in half because it's quite good for just picking up and using it for the smaller pieces. And I keep them in my in just a case. You can fit two in quite nicely, so a split one and a whole one. Right, so that's that one. Now, am I going to use I might use the little girl with the buckets. Let's see if she or the pair of them will fit. Yes, they will. Okay, I'm going to do the two little girls and the buckets with that one. So I think I can take it down a block size. Yes, I can. So I'm just going to put this one on here. Line it up straight, and then again with a good black ink. We're going to put this one in the centre. And again, I'm putting it in the centre, so then there is room to, it balances it better, and you can put more sort of sand or grass or whatever at the bottom, and it positions it quite nicely. And again, it gives us room to put the sentiment in at the bottom. So let's just clean this off. There we go. And then that can go back in its case. And then we can choose what sentiments we want when we get there. So I find colouring, there's two ways of doing the colouring, and I quite like, let me see if I've got, I'm not sure whether I've got one in, I need to see if I've got the mint macaron in Coastal Cabana, in the markers, Pool Party. I'm pretty sure I've got it somewhere. Soft Sky. Pistachio Pudding. No, I haven't in there. I'm going to use some of our markers, and I'm going to use the ink pad as well, because you can use both for watercolouring, and I find it's quite good to, as I say, to use both. So I'm going to take a block. The easiest way for me is literally just ink up a block, and that gives you a palette. So we've got mint macaron in on there to start off with, so we know that we want some colours in there. Then I've got to think what I want to tone with the mint macaron. I think it would be quite nice to do, let's do, rather than purple, let's have some flirty flamingo would look quite nice, and let's have sort of melon mambo in on the ink pad, on the marker, so we can do both of those because I quite like to team in colours together. So I'm just going to take another block and just ink up some colour on that end, and then with the marker I'm just going to scribble some colour in on here. The Stampin' Right markers, the ink is exactly the same as what's inside our ink pads, so you can mix and match and use them. So I've now got 3 palettes here, and we can then do what are we going to do the little girl's dresses in? Let's have we'll start with pink, I think. So we'll start with the Flirty Flamingo and just pick up a little bit, and you can just very simply just wash it through. Now I really like using our inks and the aqua painter. I use our blends quite a lot, as you know, but it's quite nice when you're doing a watercoloured image that you do that you use with watercolour. Now you can use watercolour paper, however, as I've always said, you can use cardstock as long as you don't get too much water on there. And there's no reason to get too much water. You don't need it. Now I'm not going to clean off my brush. I'm just going to pick up some of the pink and just bring that through a little bit. So I've got a little bit of this one and a little bit of the pink together, so it gives a slightly different tone on the dress, although I might actually take something which is a little bit pinker on here. So let's take this one and we'll take a little bit of this, because it's quite nice sometimes to blend a few colours in together. So you've got the colours coming in. That's better. And using the aqua painter, it will blend through quite nicely. Okay, so we've got sort of 2 different tones on there. Now for this one, which is why it's quite nice to do 2 again. Again, I'm going to do the pink because I quite like that pink. It's quite nice and vibrant, but you can see you can just literally just wash it through. It doesn't take too long, but you can bring it through and just pick up a bit more as you go. And the aqua painters have 2, there's 2 of them, so you've got a wide tip and you've got this one which is the narrow tip. Now I must admit I tend to use the narrow tip most of the time, purely because for me it allows me to go into the little edges. And I'm going to take a little bit of the pink in on here, just bring that in a bit. Quite like blending a couple of colours because then it gives you those sort of light tones and things in there as well, and it's not always the same colour. Take this little bit of the pink and just put that through where the bow is. Down there. Okay, so that's those 2 done, and you can see I've still got lots and lots of colour on there, but what I do is I have a just a piece of kitchen roll and I then just wipe it off. But you know, you don't need a lot to be able to colour an image quite easily. Okay, now this is where I do a bit of mix and matching. So on the actual flowers themselves, I think this time I'm going to have it as corn. So I'm going to take the crushed curry in our markers, and then I can just literally just go through. So this could be flowers, but it also could be corn. And again, I'm not spending time doing absolutely accurate in each one. It's as you would do a watercolor painting, and you're giving just a bit of color definition on here, but by using the markers you then get a full strength rather than it being watered down. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with, let's take Old Olive. Oh, actually we want mint macaron, don't we? Scrub that for a second. Okay, I'm going to do the skin first, and what I tend to use is Calypso Coral or something that's quite pale. So this is, let me just clean my brush off. If you water things down a lot, they will then come out paler. So you can use any of the pinks or the slightly orangey ones, so Calypso Coral and things like that, because I find that if you use them and just literally water it down as much as you can, and then you're just going to go through, and it will give a very pale tone, which is skin-like, which is exactly what you want. You know, you don't want bright pink skin. You can tone in a little bit of soft suede if you want a slightly darker skin tone, but just water it so that as you're putting it on, it comes really nice and pale, and you're not taking it as a big one. Right, I think that's all of those on there. Okay, so that's that bit done. And again, just literally, you can see how much I use my kitchen roll. I tend to have a piece that I use, and then I'll get another one. Okay, so those are those pieces on. So let's have hair. Right, so I'm going to take, again, I'm using markers. So I just want a little bit of soft suede, and I'm going to take some of the crushed curry as well, and just a little bit of that. So you can see you're just creating a little palette. So I want to try with the soft suede first, because that will give just some nice brown tones, and then we'll have the older little girl with the brown, and then we'll just team up. The little girl is going to be more blonde, but if you use the two colours together, you can get that sort of softer look without it being too over the top. And then if I want some blonder highlights coming through her hair, I can just literally put that through, and you still have the brown undertone underneath. So that's that bit done on there. Now, we haven't used our mint macaron yet, so we need to bring in that mint macaron to tie it in with the background. So I'm going to do the grass in this in the mint macaron. So you can just literally pick it up, and you can see I'm doing fairly sort of wide strokes down, because it just gives you that sort of watercolor look and feel. Okay, and then I'm going to take it fairly watered down and just literally give a bit of colouring in on the bottom here. Okay, so that's that one almost done. Now with this one, I think I'm going to do, and I might have to add a little bit more, but I'm going to do their buckets in the green. So their little buckets are going to be in the mint macaron, which will team it up. So take those up and give them a wash. I want to have the outside of the bucket a little bit darker. And bring that through like that. And then they really should be walking through the sand because they've got bare feet. So I think we're going to do, let's take this and we'll have just a little bit of the yellow. Just clean that brush off. A little bit of the crushed curry. Water that down quite a bit. Don't want it too bright, so make it quite, you can always add more in, but it's difficult to take it away. And then I'm just going to run that just along on there and then just bring it down. Like that. Okay, so I can now, if I want to, just add a little bit of sky in there, and for that you need a fairly pale blue. So let's go back to using ink pads. So I've got a bit of Pool Party's quite a nice sort of greeny bluey sort of colour, and again just ink up your pad or your block so you've got another little bit of colour palette. And again, you want this to be quite watery, so make sure that you've squeezed quite a bit of water in on here, which I have, and it will make it nice and loose, because all you want to do is to give a little bit of colour washed through, but you don't want it to be too much. So just bring it down through, and again, it doesn't have to be overly accurate in there, just sort of bring it through. It's a watercolour, so it's impressions rather than it being absolutely fixed. So that's the first one. And then on her, I'm just, again, I start at the top because then I can work out how much colour I need and just pick it up off my block as I go, and then just bring it down on this side, picking up a little bit as I go, and bring it round where the flowers are, then just a little bit down on that side and just in on there. Okay, so those are those two done. So that's given us our two lovely images, which we've put a bit of the mint macaron in, which is going to match our background or our card base. So now we need to start putting some of this together to see how it looks. So let's take those two bases and two tops out. I've got a little piece here which I can put my sentiments on, but I can take those, put those there. Okay, so we've got her to go on there, which I think's rather nice, so I can glue that straight on. You can use dimensionals if you want to. As you know, I tend to not put too many dimensionals on different things, only because A, it gives the postage is a lot higher, and B, sometimes I think they look a little bit like pyramids. You know, you have layer upon layer upon layer, and I prefer, you've got the stitched on there, I prefer it to be a little bit more simple. So let's put this one on here. Really love the way that's toned in. I think that's lovely. This one in on here. And say very simple watercolouring, but how beautiful does that look? It's one of the things I absolutely love about line drawings, is the fact that I've always wanted to be a beautiful artist. I would love to be a beautiful artist. Unfortunately, I'm not. But it means that I can colour something and make it look beautiful. So, okay, so that's one of them. Let's just fold this one in half. And we've got that. Note cards are lovely as well because they're a perfect size to send to anybody. You know, they're great in the post. So, which one are we going to have? Are we going to have this one on there and that one on there? Or am I going to put it the other way around? I think I might have it the other way around. I quite like the children in on the splot because the splot sort of come one side to another, and that's quite nice. You've got your green at the top. It'd be quite good if it was the other way round, actually, if I'd put it on that way, because then you've got the green on the bottom coming to the top, but it's not, so we'll work with it like that. And we need to put a sentiment down the bottom that'll pick up that green. So those are our two just basic. So let's take the stamp set back again and look at some of the words. You're somebody's blessing and collect beautiful moments. So let's collect beautiful moments and you're somebody's blessing. I haven't used that one yet. Let me just take it out. If you haven't seen our rubber stamps, they come out and you have a little piece at the back that you just peel off, and then we do have stickers to go on there. Now there's a sticker camp and a non-sticker camp. The stickers are really good, so you can put your stickers on so that you know exactly what everything is. They are very, 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 very sticky. And so I tend not to use them because I've been Stampin' Up for quite a long time and been a demonstrator for quite a long time, and I must admit I tend to use them as I've always used them, and I don't put them on stickers. My own personal preference, but there are the stickers for them to go on to. Okay, so you're somebody's blessing. We need a little scrap of I always find the little pieces off the ends. And because, as I said, because the inside is white, I'm going to use it in white. So I'm going to have the very vanilla almost as an accent. Now, I can do this in mint macaron, or I can do it in one of the pinks. I think I'm going to do it in the mint macaron and see how that comes out, because I want as much toning in of that mint macaron as I can. So let's put this up. Put that in there. Oh yes, you're somebody's blessing. That's rather nice, isn't it? And then I'm just going to put that up. I'm not going to clean it off at the moment because then we won't... what does this one say? Put this one in here. I love the way you've got the sort of the line pieces coming out of this. It's ever so pretty. Okay, so collect beautiful moments. So they will work nicely on there. So I can put that one out of the way. And I've turned around and said that I'm not. It's one of those things, isn't it, that I can't leave a stamp with ink on it without cleaning it off. It goes against the grain. So I'm going to clean that one and then take this one and just give that a clean. It only takes a second, and I try and look after my stamps as much as I can, so we can put these ones back. And then I just need to, once I've put those in there, right, then I need to cut these out so that I've got them quite small as I can get them, really. So I'm just going to cut those pieces on. And I'm using, I must admit, I'm using this quite a lot, which is our mini paper trimmer. Now, you can only get that if you join Stampin' Up. As a demonstrator, we were able to get it, obviously, to show you guys. But I find I'm not very good at cutting down sentiments and getting them straight. My scissor work is not the best. Whereas I do find using this, it allows you to just cut those little sentiments down, and you know they're going to be straight, which is rather good. This little piece here lifts up. I hope you can see it, because I'm just trying to get this as straight as I can, taking it down onto that bottom bit. So I've found for cutting sentiments and things down, it's really rather good. Now we need that a bit smaller, don't we? And say, because this piece lifts up, you can sort of move it down a bit, which is quite good. So I just need to take that just a bit nearer, try and get it straight. That should be about right. And as you know, I have dexterity problems, so I find that this is quite good. So you can see it actually cuts it quite nicely. Joining Stampin' Up at the moment during celebration, it's the time that so many people join us. And I'd love to have you on my team. And you can join for £99 and you get £130 worth of product, your choice, from the annual or the mini catalogue. So £130. You get this trimmer for free. You get a pack of 6x6 papers, pattern papers, that you can then, there are what they call a sample selection. So there's some of the best papers within the catalogues, and they've just given you a really good selection. And you can choose another stamp set of your choice from the catalogue. So it really is a good time, if you've been thinking about joining, to join. And I will leave the link to my website, which has the join link on there, so you can see all about it. Right, so we now have these. Now, I'll show you a little tip of what I do. I get a tiny scrap. I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, and again, what do they say? 2 for luck, or 1 for luck, 2 for joy. So what I tend to do is, because I want a little 1/8 of an inch border, I will take a little scrap and then I will glue my sentiment onto this, just giving a tiny little border. You don't want a huge border on there at all. And I can get this one on there as well. So by doing it this way, you're giving yourself your little borders, and you're using up your scraps. As me, it fell down the right way. It's like buttered jam, isn't it? Sometimes it goes the right way down, and sometimes it doesn't. So that can go on there. Oh, that actually fits perfectly on that one, doesn't it? Okay, so you can then very easily just take it down. So that's that one. And then this one, we'll take this end first. And because it's such a tiny border, it's relatively easy to literally just run your scissors down there, just giving a tiny weeny little border. If you're trying to do 1/4 of an inch, unless you've got really good control, I would find that quite difficult. Now I'm going to throw those 2 little pieces away. So we now have 2 nice sentiments. So we can start putting these cards together. So we've got this one on here. You're somebody's blessing I wanted. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to put this one on first. And again, I'm just gluing it. You could use dimensionals if you wanted to. But I'm just going to literally put it straight down like this. In fact, I'm going to close it because I want to see. Put it fairly centered like that. And then your somebody's blessing down at the bottom. Have that coming down. It's just a little bit on there. Now what I might do is put some dimensionals on that. Let's get the other one on first. I do like these stitched rectangles. They just give that little bit of border on there. And as I say, you could take them up bigger if you wanted to. If you didn't want quite as much of the background showing. But I think that will work quite well. Okay, so I need to get some. I got some minis out. I turned round. I've got a pot now that I keep putting them in, and I've still got these little pieces to use at the bottom. Am I going to use those? No, I'm not. I'm going to take my. I tried to be very sensible and put some of them in little pots, and there we go. I've got some minis out on here. So with this, we need to have one on each one of those corners and some glue on that side, so it then lies flat. And I always have to double check to make sure that I've got it on the right piece, because otherwise you will have your sentiment will be at a bit of an angle. I'm going to put just one in the center there. So let's take these off, and then we can just add a little bit of glue along the top bit here. And then we can put that with a bit of space just down on the bottom like that. So that's one. And then we'll take the other one. And as I say, these are simple cards. I'm not doing anything overly fancy or overly difficult, but using a beautiful stamp set and also using these lovely little note cards, which are such a good price at the moment. It's worth stocking up on them. So now I've said that, you will probably find, unless you get on there really quickly, everybody will go on and buy them and they'll be out of stock. Because they are in the clearance rack, it means that they were last year's. Now, do I put that a little bit higher? Do I put it just down on the bottom? Oh, I don't know. No, I think I want it down on the bottom here. Yes, I do. And I always try and offset it just a little bit, because I think that gives just a little bit of something. So you can then add whatever embellishments and things you want, but we've now made 2 cards just toning in the colours, and I think that they are absolutely lovely. They work beautifully, and as I say, you can put them in a little case, wrap them up with some ribbon and give them as a set, but again, all the details will be below, so have a look for these, because they are worth getting, because they are such a good price. So thank you so much for watching me. Do look forward to seeing you again. Bye bye.